Good evening, and welcome to the Transform I-66 Outside the Beltway Public Information Meeting. I'm Renee Hamilton, the Deputy District Administrator. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to provide you with an overview of the proposed preferred alternative and the phased approach for this project. So the format for tonight's meeting, which many of you have just participated in, is an opportunity to speak with our project team at the boards and to have them to answer any questions or to make any comments that you have. We will now enter into the phase of doing the presentation followed by a video. And then we will release the crowd to go back to the boards to ask additional questions of our staff. This meeting is being live streamed, so welcome to the folks in computer land. First of all, let me start by providing an introduction to the elected officials who are here. Representing Congresswoman Comstock office, we have Mary Ann Cannon. Okay. Representing Senator Kane's office, Joe Montana. And also representing Supervisor Fry's office, we have Michael Coyle. Let me also introduce the project staff that we have. Susan Shaw, who's a project manager. And we have Todd Horsley of our sister agency, the Department of Rail and Public Transportation. So this is the second in the series of 3 meetings related to outside the Beltway. Back in May and June, we actually held 4 public hearing meetings on the Tier 2 draft environmental assessment document. At that meeting, we presented various concept drawings as well as technical reports so that the public could have an opportunity to, 1, review the information and to provide official comments to go into the record. A summary of those comments will be incorporated in the revised environmental assessment document that we will share with our federal partners in November. So the purpose of tonight is, 1, to provide you just a summary and a status of where we are with the project, as well as to go over the preferred alternative and the phased approach for this project. We will go over key project elements, as well as give you a status report on where we are with the procurement process, and then looking at some key milestone dates associated with this project. So many of you have seen this map many times. We're looking at the corridor of I-66 from 15 in Haymarket to the Beltway, and basically going through both Prince William and Fairfax counties and the associated cities and towns. We've been very consistent in our message as we've rolled out this project. We started with a purpose and needs statement that really looked at addressing the existing and future transportation concerns along the corridor, but looking at improving the multimodal mobility along I-66 by providing diverse travel choices in a cost-effective manner. We also looked at enhancing the safety and travel reliability along the corridor. One of the things I do want to say is that our focus has truly been on moving more people and not just moving more cars. So let me just give you some background on the project, just a recap of where we've been. In November of 2013, our federal partners, FHWA, actually approved a Tier 1 environmental impact statement with a record of decision. And what that package entailed was 10 concepts that they advanced. And this the project that you will see through this presentation is one of those. Also, in July of 2014, we actually launched the Tier 2 environmental assessment for Transform 66 outside the Beltway. In January and February of 2015, we actually held similar meetings in various locations just to basically roll out the project at that time and where we were at that time in the status of the project. And then our official public hearing, as I said before, was in May and June of this year as well. And that's an opportunity to really record your comments as part of the official record. Also in August, our commissioner actually issued a finding of public interest. And what that is that this project is being considered under our PPTA public-private partnership. And in order to advance a project under that concept, the commissioner has to issue this to basically make sure that it's in the best interest of the Commonwealth. In September, we actually rolled out the preferred alternative in the phased approach for this project at our Commonwealth Transportation Board meeting, followed by a briefing that we had with all of the elected officials. And also we issued a request for qualifications from our private developers at that time as well. So as I indicated, this is the second of 3 meetings. We will be out in Prince William tomorrow, just introducing the findings as well. One of the key things that we did with this project is that we felt that transparency was very important. Getting the public involved in the process throughout, from the very beginning, was very important to us. These numbers are staggering. You can basically see the amount of outreach we've actually done, whether it's actually sending out mail-outs, having small meetings, actually getting public comments back from you. Our meetings are always well attended, and we appreciate that. Your public involvement is very important in developing a project such as 66. It basically makes us, as a project team, sharpen our pencils and basically look at those things that you basically bring to us through the comment process. So we've actually modified our design as a result of your input. And this just gives you an example. Susan is going to go into a little bit more detail regarding some of them, but we actually, through comment through the public process, actually reduced the potential residential replacement from 35 to tentatively 10 homes right now. We've eliminated major impacts to Stenwood Elementary School. We've actually reconfigured the interchange at the Beltway to reduce the property impacts there. And refining the design at 28 and 66 in order to minimize the impact on the parks. And also looking at combining the best solution from the alternatives in order to come up with the preferred. So how did we get to the preferred alternative? First of all, we started with a universe of alternatives. Alternatives related to the main line, alternatives related to the access points into the express facility, as well as interchange concepts, park and ride locations, transit service scenarios, as well as transportation demand management strategies. So we started off, we brought out to the public back in May and June 2 alternatives, alternative 2A and 2B. And we took that through a very rigorous process of studies and also got your input on that. So the preferred alternative is made up to reflect the public input as well as the best elements from the various alternatives, refined ideas to reduce impacts. And as I stated before, we've been very consistent with our message that we wanted to take a multimodal approach to improving I-66, moving more people, reducing congestion, as well as reducing the cut-through on local roadways. So here, basically, you see what we are proposing for the preferred alternative. We have 2 express lanes in both directions, where HOV3 would ride for free and buses will ride for free. Non-HOV would be allowed to use the facility if they pay a toll. Congestion-based tolling will be an element of this project, similar to 95 and 495. And the conversion of HOV 2 to 3, which was planned for this region, regardless of this project, and consistent with our constraint long-range plan, our regional plan. We will still enjoy the 3 regular lanes that we currently have. But going back to the purpose and needs statement, we actually wanted to look at the safety and operation of the existing facility. So therefore, we added ramp-to-ramp connections or auxiliary lanes. Many of the interchanges, as you're familiar with, within 66 are very close together, so this provides for better operations, as well as looking at the safety and interchange and also other operational improvements. As I mentioned, this was a multimodal approach. So therefore, transit is baked in. Transit enhancement and improvements are baked into this project. It's not separate and apart. It is a part of this project. So we looked at high-frequency, fast, reliable bus service and extending the actual peak periods for those services as well. And then looking at new park and ride facilities and the expansion of park and ride facilities. Transportation demand management, such as incentives to start carpooling, van pooling, creating the difference between I-66 and I-95. I-95 enjoys that carpooling culture, that slugging culture. We are implementing or recommending implementing facilities that would also encourage that carpooling culture along I-66. Then we also looked at bike and pedestrian trails and improvements and really looked at the connections, that last mile connections between mode choices. So here what you have is a mainline cross-section. One of the key things that came out very early on from the public and from our partners around the region is the preservation of the median for future center-run transit. So you see that the preferred alternative does preserve that median. Many of the things that you see, the 12-foot shoulders, the 2 express lanes, and then the 3 general purpose lane, and then a 14-foot shoulder being our typical section. So the phased approach, why did we decide to phase? One, we wanted to develop a project that could actually be implemented by 2021 and to invest wisely in I-66. We realize that Metro is in the future, but we don't know when that's going to happen. So a part of this project does not preserve the right-of-way all the way out through the corridor. That will be handled in a phased approach as Metro comes online. Also, there are existing infrastructure that we can use instead of trying to tear down and rebuild, especially at Monument and Stringfellow, one of those areas that you will see where we're using much of the existing infrastructure. So the elements of the phase one basically includes terminating the project at University Boulevard in Gainesville, which is approximately 4 miles shorter than going all the way to Haymarket. And also looking at phasing in the park and ride and also the transit service as demand requires, and also some of the safety and operational improvements. Now, all of the improvements as far as the preferred alternative will be advanced in the environmental assessment. And basically those the oncoming phases have not been worked out yet. However, our environmental document will cover the entire project. So with that, I'm going to, we do have a short video to show you, and hopefully I can operate this correctly. Okay.
Interstate 66, between U.S. Route 15 and I-495 in Northern Virginia, is among the most congested travel corridors in Virginia and the country. To meet the corridor's mobility challenges today and seize the opportunities it can offer the Commonwealth in the decades to come, a comprehensive approach to improving mobility on I-66 is needed. The Commonwealth is investing in multimodal solutions. This investment will transform the I-66 corridor through Prince William County, Fairfax County, the town of Haymarket, City of Fairfax, and the town of Vienna. When complete in 2021, I-66 will offer travelers more and better travel choices that are safe and reliable, including access to the region's more than 40 miles of express lanes. Through comprehensive planning and design, extensive public and stakeholder coordination and outreach, and partnership with numerous local, regional, state, and federal agencies, a recommended approach for transforming I-66 outside the Beltway has been developed. This recommended approach, referred to as the preferred alternative, is made up of 2 express lanes in each direction, 3 regular or general purpose travel lanes in each direction, interchange improvements throughout the corridor, reservation of space in the median for future transit, corridor-wide bikeway, trail, and sidewalk improvements, and an integrated network of park and ride facilities, high-quality bus service, and transportation programs and services. The project's new express lanes will offer buses and vehicles with 3 or more people a free travel option, similar to the express lanes already in operation in Northern Virginia. Other travelers can use the express lanes by paying a toll. Toll rates will vary to keep traffic in the lanes moving. 3 regular, or general purpose, travel lanes, as well as interchange improvements throughout the corridor, will enhance safety and operations. Preserving space in the median will provide opportunities for future investments in transit service and infrastructure. Bikeways, trails, and/or sidewalks will be constructed on bridge crossings impacted by the project. In coordination with local partners and consistent with previous planning efforts, a trail concept parallel to the I-66 corridor has been developed. The project will provide more than 5,500 parking spaces through the expansion of 1 existing and construction of 4 new park and rides. The project will offer new or increased bus service to regional destinations. Transportation demand management strategies may include increased marketing, education, and outreach, ride-sharing incentives, support for bicycling and walking, expanded employer outreach, and other incentives. In the next few minutes, this video will provide a brief overview of key features of the preferred alternative for Transform 66, as well as an initial near-term phase of the project, Phase 1. The overview begins at the east end of the project, at the Capital Beltway, or I-495, and continues westward to the project's endpoint at Route 15 in Haymarket, Virginia. The preferred alternative is described throughout the overview, unless otherwise noted. Now let's get started. The I-495 I-66 interchange is one of the most complicated and important locations in the corridor. It connects the general purpose lanes on I-66 and I-495 and the future I-66 express lanes with the existing I-495 express lanes. The interchange layout shown here was purposefully designed to maximize the use of existing infrastructure, provide safe and efficient operations, and minimize impacts to surrounding neighborhoods and the environment. Just west of I-495, the preferred alternative includes a direct access ramp connecting the general purpose lanes to the express lanes on I-66 eastbound. This ramp helps reduce the project's impact at I-495 at locations such as Stenwood Elementary School. In general, the project will provide 2 express lanes and 3 general purpose travel lanes in each direction of I-66, as well as bicycle and pedestrian trails and sidewalks, with local and regional connections. At Nutley Street, the project will reconstruct the existing interchange and provide what is known as a diverging diamond interchange. This interchange configuration will efficiently and safely move traffic along Nutley Street and I-66, while moderating impacts to surrounding communities and Metro Rail. At Vaden Drive, the preferred alternative includes ramps to offer drivers the opportunity to move between the express lanes and Vaden Drive to and from the west, improving access to the Vienna Metro Rail station. As this overview continues, you also may notice that in some locations, an additional lane connects adjacent on and off ramps at interchanges. These auxiliary lanes help traffic flow between adjacent interchanges. At Route 123, the project will reconfigure the existing interchange to improve operations and safety, and also allow drivers to enter the express lanes in the eastbound direction and exit from the express lanes in the westbound direction. Consistent with local jurisdictions' plans, enhanced bikeways, trails, or sidewalks will be provided for bridges reconstructed by the I-66 project. This graphic shows an example of this type of reconstruction that would occur for the Germantown Road Bridge. In US Route 50, the project will reconstruct portions of the interchange to address existing operational issues, improve safety, and provide travelers access to the express lanes. The reconfiguration to remove the northeast loop ramp will eliminate the existing weave along eastbound I-66. New ramps will offer access from eastbound Route 50 to eastbound express lanes, and from westbound express lanes to westbound Route 50. At Monument Drive, the preferred alternative constructs new west-facing access, relocates all interchange ramps accessing the proposed express lanes to the north side of I-66, and reconstructs the Monument Drive and West Ox Road bridges. Recognizing the cost and complexity of these changes, as well as the potential time horizon for future planned metro station, the project includes an initial, near-term phase at this location. Here, Phase 1 retains the existing ramp and bridges at Monument Drive and West Ox Road, while adding a west-facing ramp. The preferred alternative and Phase 1 project include park and rides in this area of the I-66 corridor. No major changes to the Fairfax County Parkway interchange are included with the preferred alternative. Extensive coordination occurred with Fairfax County to identify future needs of potential high-occupancy vehicle lanes on the parkway. The preferred alternative will construct a lane in portions of the eastbound Collector Distributor Road, or CD Road, to improve traffic operations and accommodate future express lane operations. At Stringfellow Road, the preferred alternative will provide direct express lanes access to and from the east through relocation of the existing ramp to the north side of I-66. Similar to Monument Drive, a Phase 1 approach is planned here and would use the existing ramp as a part of the express lane's access. Improving the I-66 Route 28 interchange is key to solving gridlock at one of the region's most congested locations. The new interchange will offer direct access between Route 28 and the express lanes in key directions. The new interchange bridges will be built to accommodate future transit along I-66. In the vicinity of the interchange, opportunities are provided to transition between express lanes and general purpose lanes along I-66. Along Route 28, the project removes existing traffic signals, improves access and operations at Braddock and Walney Roads, and changes access to Eleanor C. Lawrence Park, consistent with the park's master plan. At Route 29 in Centerville, preserving space in the median for future transit would require the reconstruction of the existing bridges and interchange. Similar to Monument Drive and Stringfellow Road, a Phase 1 approach will be used here. In Phase 1, the I-66 median width is reduced, allowing the existing bridges over Route 29 to remain. From west of Route 29 Centerville to University Boulevard, the implementation of the preferred alternative cross-section will be phased. The existing cross-section has 3 general purpose lanes, 1 HOV lane in each direction, a paved inside shoulder, and a concrete median barrier. Phase 1 of the project minimizes the widening needed by keeping the existing paved shoulders. In Phase 1, 3 general purpose lanes, 2 express lanes, adequate shoulders, and dividers are accommodated in each direction. Should a future transit investment occur in the median of I-66, the preferred alternative could be constructed and may require further widening of I-66. In this section of I-66, the preferred alternative does not impact existing parks. The preferred alternative in this location was influenced by extensive work with key project stakeholders, such as the National Park Service, as well as comments from the public. At Route 234 Business, the project continues the 2 express lanes and the 3 general purpose travel lanes in each direction. The westbound off-ramps from the general purpose lanes at Route 234 Business are combined into a single exit point with improved deceleration lanes, separating the exiting traffic from the through movements on I-66. In addition, safety and capacity improvements will be constructed at the intersection of Route 234 Business and Balls Ford Road. Along Balls Ford Road, the preferred alternative includes a new park and ride facility with access to the express lanes. This facility will be connected to existing area pedestrian and bicycle networks, and also will include sidewalks and bikeways within the lot to connect people to services offered at the park and ride. Once in the park and ride lot, people will be able to choose between parking for bus transit or ride sharing, or picking up and dropping off passengers. Designated spaces will allow people to connect with a bus, vanpool, or carpool serving their destination. Once the bus, carpool, or vanpool departs the park and ride lot, it will have convenient and direct access to nearby express lanes, which buses and HOV3 vehicles can use free of charge. Vehicles with 1 or 2 people can access the express lanes, but they would be charged a toll. The features, access, and services offered at the Balls Ford Road Park and Ride lot are similar to those that will be available at the other park and ride facilities being constructed with this project. At Prince William Parkway, or the Route 234 bypass, The preferred alternative will provide direct access to the westbound express lanes from Route 234 and direct access from the eastbound express lanes to Route 234. In addition, the existing park and ride along Cushing Road will have direct express lanes access to and from the east. The express lanes access and expansion of the Cushing Road park and ride lot will occur in a later phase of the preferred alternative. University Boulevard in Gainesville is an important location for the project. The project will provide a park and ride here that is adjacent to I-66, and the overpass will have express lanes access to and from the east. In the preferred alternative, the express lanes will end west of Route 15 in Haymarket. In Phase 1, the express lanes will end at University Boulevard and transition to HOV lanes. At Route 29 Gainesville, the preferred alternative includes minor modifications that will tie into the I-66 widening that is currently under construction. At Route 15 in the preferred alternative, 2 express lanes and 3 general purpose lanes will continue in each direction through the interchange, which is currently under construction as a diverging diamond under a separate but coordinated project. The express lanes will begin and end at the preferred alternative's western end in the vicinity of Antioch Road and Haymarket. Access will be provided in both directions between Antioch Road and I-66. At this location, the project includes a park and ride north of I-66 and east of Antioch Road. The Commonwealth's Transform 66 Outside the Beltway project is a multimodal investment in long-term mobility for Northern Virginia. The combination of transit, bicycle and pedestrian access, and general purpose and express lanes will keep travelers in the I-66 corridor moving safely and reliably for decades to come. For more information on this important multimodal transportation initiative in Northern Virginia, please visit transform66.org.
While Susan is coming up, we do have a vehicle with their lights on, Virginia plates XDF 3891. Your lights are on.
Good evening. I'm Susan Shaw, working on this project along with our project team. So I wanted to talk with you a little bit about our environmental results of our preferred alternative. And since we came to you with plans back in May and June, we've been able to reduce many of our impacts along the corridor, including those to environmental properties. When we looked at the plans previously, we showed that 10 properties within the area were historic properties that potentially could be impacted, and we have been able to avoid all direct impacts to the historic properties along the corridor. When we looked at the plans in the spring, in terms of parks, we had a potential impact of 4 different parks. We've reduced that to only 1 park that has direct impacts. It's a Fairfax County Park Authority park at Random Hills in the vicinity of the Route 50 interchange. All the recreational facilities that are located at Stenwood Elementary School, the ball field there and the recreational trail, direct impacts to those have been avoided by a redesign of our interchange concept at the Beltway. In addition, we've been working hard to reduce residential impacts and right-of-way impacts, both for partial takes and for total takes, and we've been able to reduce our residential relocations to 11. These are still potential relocations, but they are what's shown in our plan. We will continue. Our goal of the project is to minimize our impacts, and we'll continue to work on that as we move through our final design process. Our air quality study, our technical study, showed that we are within the national air quality standards. We're very committed to noise abatement in the corridor. As you know, there are a number of noise walls in the corridor today. Our preliminary study showed over 2 million square feet of noise walls that would be either reconstructed or constructed as part of the project based on our early findings. Again, we will be doing final analyses during final design. Those numbers could change some, but that's what our early studies are showing. We're committed to mitigating stream, wetland, and water quality impacts, and most of these impacts, over 90% of the stream impacts, are within the VDOT right-of-way. And that's largely because we're confining most of our construction, or trying to keep our footprint as small as possible. And we've worked hard to address agency and public comments in our revised environmental assessment. This chart just shows some of the changes that we've had to our right-of-way impacts, and you can see here originally we had as many as 35 residential relocations in our initial concepts, and we've been able to reduce that down to 11. And then our Phase 1 alternate shows that 161 potential partial takes along the corridor. And when you look at the total number of parcels that abut 66 is over 1,200. So while we still do have impacts, we've worked very hard to try to minimize that footprint. So I'd like to walk you through a few slides on some of our findings on our traffic analyses. The preferred alternative, we've now analyzed it for the 2040, which includes the entire project out to Route 15, and then we've looked at the Phase 1 or initial study in a mid-year, a 2025 analyses. And what we're finding is that our proposal moves more people through more modes in both the AM and the PM peak periods. We're seeing significant reductions in the duration of congestion and in the severity of congestion, and that's both in the morning and the evening peak periods. This results in improved speeds on 66 and a reduction in travel times. We also are seeing that we're improving safety issues and we're reducing bottlenecks in the corridor. And I'm focused here on improvements to our general purpose lanes. Of course, our express lanes are required to move at a minimum of 45 miles per hour, and the tolls will be congestion priced to make sure that happens. So these analyses are really focused on the general purpose lanes. One of the things, this generally shows, if you look at 100% of the traffic that reaches the Beltway, would be in the eastbound direction, where the traffic is originating from in the corridor. And what we're finding is that about 66% of the vehicles that are on 66 at the Beltway originate or get onto 66 within Fairfax County. The other thing that we get questions about a lot, and we've heard concerns about, is what happens as traffic leaves 66 outside the Beltway and heads to points east towards Arlington and D.C. And here you can see the split of traffic is evenly split between those heading north on the Beltway towards Tysons and into Maryland, and who is heading further to points further east. So it's 38% in both of those directions, and then about 24% that head south on the Beltway. This slide shows 5 different scenarios as you move from left to right across the slide. This is in the morning peak period, peak hour. We've picked one peak hour between 7 and 8 a.m. To show how many people are moved in the corridor on these different scenarios. And as you walk from left to right across the slide, the farthest left is the existing condition. The blue bars show the number of people moved in the general purpose lanes. The green bars show the number of people moved in the express lanes or HOV lanes. Purple is bus, and orange is Metro Rail. And so there's 5 segments in the corridor that are listed from west to east. The top bar is westbound traffic, and the bottom group of bars are in the eastbound. So for this slide, since we're looking at the AM period, we're more interested in that bottom bar because it's showing what's happening in the eastbound direction, which is our peak hour direction. And I think what you'll see is as you look at the phase 1 in the middle here, that shows the 2025 results, and we see some significant increases in the people that are moved in buses in the purple. We also can see that the general purpose lanes improved pretty dramatically in terms of the blue bars are larger in that scenario, and I think this speaks to the fact that we did work very hard on addressing existing issues that we know are on the general purpose lanes, and that's also an important element of our project. This is a similar slide laid out in the same fashion, but this is looking at the PM direct peak hour. And so in this case, it's between 5 and 6 p.m. And so here we're interested in the top bar because that is the westbound direction, and so that's going to be your peak conditions. So in the far left, you can see existing how many people are being moved in that corridor. And there you can see the metro in orange. It only applies to that last segment because that's where we have metro between 123 and Nutley Street and the Beltway. And we also can see here the dramatic increase across all modes, both in the HOV lanes. We see more people moving in buses in both our 2025 condition and in our 2040 condition. And in the AM peak, we just talked about we're moving about 4,000 more people per hour across those modes. And in this PM peak direction, we're moving about 3,500 more people across all modes. So this slide is what we affectionately call our heat map. Red is bad, would be slow speeds. So it's again showing 5 scenarios. With the scenario at the top is the existing condition. The next bar down is our no-build model for 2025, and then we have our no-build for 2040. And you can see that this is all shown in the eastbound direction, so vehicles coming from the west and moving to the east, with the Beltway at this location right about here on your slide. And so if you travel the 66 corridor, these are backups that you're probably quite familiar with. There's a backup that happens at Route 50 most every morning. There's also one that happens in the 28-29 area that spills back into 234 business. Here's 234 business. And you can see that in the 2025 condition, the length of those queues extend farther. They start to run into one another. They start to extend beyond the period that we studied. Now, in this case, we looked at a 4-hour window. So this is 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on each of these bars. So you're looking at a 4-hour window in the morning in terms of congestion. So the bottom 2 bars here show our 2025 build condition and then our 2040 build condition. And again, I would just point out these are in the general purpose lanes. The express lanes would be a kind of a boring bar because we would just show green. Since those are congestion based, they would be all green, and that's what our analysis showed. So we're focused here on our general purpose lane. And you can see that we do have some congestion. It's shorter than what you see in the existing and the no-build conditions. This is a congestion that starts at Nutley Street. Spills back a little bit to Route 50 in our 2025, and then we also have that in our 2040. And I think this speaks to the fact that we understand the strong emphasis on minimizing our impact to the surrounding communities. These congestions in the general purpose lanes could easily be solved by adding lanes, But what we're really trying to do is keep our footprint small, make the best use we can of the existing areas and minimize the impacts to the surrounding community. So we've tried to balance our plan. So this is a similar slide, again looking at the westbound direction. And so here you see what you have today. So you've got some very typical congestion. This is from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. So if you're heading out from the Beltway, you typically hit a backup around the one that extends through to the 123 interchange. If you can get through that, you'll have another backup around the Fairfax County Parkway, then another one around 28 and 29, and then another one at 234 Business in Prince William County. And that's a typical commute period that we're seeing. In the no-build condition in 2025, you can see that gets much worse, and it's extending beyond the period of time that we studied. This was from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., so you're getting backups that go beyond the 7 p.m. time frame, and they start building, from 3 p.m. And then you can see, again, this getting much worse, extending into the 8, 9 p.m. Hours that you just don't even see because it's off of our heat maps. This fourth bar down here shows our 2025 build conditions, so you can see significant improvements. There are some shadows of slower speeds, say that drop below 50, 45 miles per hour, but largely improved in the westbound direction. And then you see some of that building in the 2040 time frame. And again, we're not 100% building ourselves out of congestion. We recognize this is a balanced approach in the corridor. So now I'd like to invite Todd Horsley to come up and talk about our transit components.
Thanks, Susan. I'm Todd Horsley, the Director of Northern Virginia Transit Programs for the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation. So over the many months that this whole I-66 project has been being developed, one thing that VDOT and DRPT have heard loud and clear from the Secretary of Transportation, from senior management in VDOT and senior management in DRPT and our local elected officials is that any project to improve I-66 outside the Beltway must have a robust transit component to it. Without a transit component, there really is no I-66 project. So given that direction, over the last several months, DRPT staff, our consulting team, we've worked with all of the local jurisdictions in the corridor, all the transit providers in the corridor. Actually, we've worked with all the local jurisdictions and transit providers in the region to try to come up with the most effective transit service plan that we can possibly come up with, given the resources that are being made available as part of this project. Renee touched on this earlier. There's really three components to this. So what you see at the bottom of the slide here under this map, and those are basically new transit services that will provide more frequent and reliable trips to major destinations. New and expanded park and ride facilities that will have direct access to the express lanes, and then travel demand management strategies, which are basically strategies that make it easier and more affordable to use alternative travel options. So as Renee demonstrated earlier, we recognize that not all people who travel through the I-66 corridor are going into DC and Arlington. I believe it was 38% maybe are traveling on through to the east. Then another 38% are going north, and then the rest were going south on the Beltway. So we wanted to make sure that our transit services that we provide for this corridor don't just serve Washington, D.C. and Arlington. So the new transit services that we'll be providing in the corridor will serve all of these destinations that you see in these orange dots. These are the origins and destinations in the transit service plan. So the Pentagon and the Mark Center, which are south of I-66, those will be served by new transit services. Tyson Corner, Herndon, Reston, the Dulles area, and Chantilly, and Westfields, and then we'll also have some service that will take commuters into metro rail stations. So we wanted to demonstrate that this will be a robust transit service with a lot of new destinations that are not currently served. So what will this new transit service look like? So what we came up with is what we believe will be the most effective transit service we can put into the corridor is a point-to-point, or is basically a greatly enhanced network of point-to-point commuter bus services that will operate between park and ride facilities and the regional destinations that we showed you on the previous slide. This will be commuter bus service that is optimized to move more people along the corridor in expanded peak periods. We considered an all-day service as a alternative at one point, but we really looked at the services that we could provide and the ridership projections, the number of people we could move with the resources we have available, and we came up with this really an enhanced network of commuter bus services. So all the commuter bus service that you see in the corridor now will remain, and we'll actually try to enhance some of that service with additional buses on those routes, and then we're also going to introduce several new routes to the destinations that you saw on the previous slide. So what do we mean by expanded peak periods? Right now, a traditional morning commute is probably in the 6 to 9 peak period. A traditional afternoon is probably 4 to 7, let's say. So what we plan to do for extended peak periods is we're going to start our transit services operating a little bit earlier in the morning and a little bit earlier in the afternoon, take them through the traditional peak periods, and then actually end them a little bit later in the morning and a little bit later in the afternoon. So you'll actually have more coverage during the day, but it still won't be all-day service. So another feature of this, the buses that we'll be using from the park and ride lots, as I said, have direct access into the express lanes, and so they will be able to take advantage of those travel savings and have a more reliable trip, whereas right now the buses have to travel usually in the general purpose lanes and they get stuck in traffic. Like I said, we really have worked with all the transit service providers in the region to try to come up with this plan, and what we decided was that really the two providers of bus service in the region or in the corridor right now are probably the best agencies to actually operate our new transit service. So we're going to be looking to Fairfax Connector and to the Potomac and Rappahannock Transportation Commission, also known as PRTC. So they'll actually operate this new services for us. And we're going to make it very flexible. We've identified the origins and destinations that will be served, but we want to allow PRTC and Fairfax Connector to really develop their own details of the route and how the routing will take place between the origins and destinations. We really feel like that's not something that the state should dictate. They're the ones who operate service on the ground, and they're best suited to make those decisions. So the new bus routes will actually be implemented over time. So you see phase one, by 2025 we expect to have 13 new or expanded routes operating in the corridor, which will carry up to 10,000 riders. We say 13 new or expanded because, like I said, we're going to keep what's already there and expand some of those routes, and then we'll also introduce new destinations. And then by 2040, we actually plan to add 7 more, and so we would have 20 new or expanded routes by 2040 that we forecast would be carrying up to 13,400 forecasted daily riders. So if you think about it, that's potentially 13,400 cars that would not be on the road by 2040 or 10,000 by 2025. And one really important feature of our new transit service is this ability to monitor and measure the performance of the new services and adapt to changing travel patterns. So we're going to have performance measures attached to all of this transit service. We want to be very transparent. We want this to be really effective service that really moves more people through the corridor. So any unproductive, we'll be able to tell if any of our particular routes are unproductive, they're just not carrying a lot of people. The first thing we'll do is we'll try to make them productive, and if we can't make them productive, then we'll have the ability to actually take those routes off the road and redeploy the resources we were using towards those routes to other routes that are productive. So this will have maximum flexibility with our new transit services, and so hopefully we think that will make them much more effective and more accountable to the public. The next element of this project is the park and ride facilities. We anticipate that we will be constructing 4 new park and ride facilities, and we will also be expanding 1. The expansion facility will be in Gainesville at Cushing Road. The 4 new park and ride facilities would be in Haymarket, in Gainesville at University Boulevard, at Balls Ford Road in the Manassas area, and then at Monument Drive in what we're calling Fairfax Center, and that will eventually be a structured parking lot, or I'm sorry, a parking structure. In the short term, we plan to use existing parking spaces at the Fairfax County Government Center to operate our transit service out of until some details and plans can be made to actually build that parking structure. So by 2021, we plan to, and that's the opening year of the project, we would plan to have approximately 4,000 spaces constructed, and then by 2040, a total of 6,500 spaces. So these park and ride facilities will have amenities that support transit, amenities that support the carpooling and van pooling. We don't want only transit riders to be using these facilities. We actually want people to go there and carpool and van pool together. And then there's also kiss and ride, where people can just drop people off to catch the bus. Some of the other amenities you'll see at these facilities, it will include real-time transit information and real-time traffic information. And then also we'll have covered bicycle storage at these. So we'll be encouraging people to ride their bikes to the park and ride facilities when possible. They'll also have the direct, as we mentioned earlier, they'll have the direct access to the express lanes and the convenient connections to the local roadway and trail networks, so that buses or anybody parking here will have, direct access and be able to take advantage of the express lanes if they qualify. And then the final element of our transit plan is these TDM strategies, transit demand management, which you've probably heard. We have a very robust network of TDM programs in the region right now. We're very fortunate to have that. A lot of regions don't. They're very effective. If you think traffic on I-66 is bad now, if we didn't have these TDM strategies in place already, it would be much worse. But we're actually going to further enhance our TDM strategies during this project, or as a result of this project. So TDM strategies, as we said earlier, are basically strategies that make it easier and more affordable to use alternative transit or travel options. So the TDM strategies we'll use for this project will directly promote the use of the express lanes, the new transit services, the park and rides, and ride-sharing opportunities. And as I said earlier, these will actually supplement the ongoing TDM efforts that already exist in the region. Some of the specific project strategies, Renee kind of touched on this earlier. I'll just run through these. But corridor marketing and outreach, we just want to make sure that that people understand the new features of the I-66 corridor about the express lanes, the park and ride lots. So we'll be doing a lot of marketing and outreach regarding those features before the project opens and during the project. Limited time fare buy downs for new transit users. We found that if we can get people on a bus and riding it a few times, then we have a pretty good retention rate of keeping them on the bus. So one way to get them on the bus is actually to give them free rides for a while. So that will be part of the strategies that we use. Financial incentives and assistance for carpool and van pool formation. As Renee said, we would really like to see a similar carpooling culture develop along I-66 that you see on I-95. They're very different corridors with very different destinations, but we do think that there is the potential there for a carpooling culture to develop. Certainly supported TDM strategies that support bicycle and pedestrian travel within the corridor. I believe Susan will talk about the bicycle and pedestrian features of the project in just a minute. This HOV2 to HOV3 conversion awareness, we just want people to be aware that right now you can travel in an HOV2 lane, but in order to take advantage of the express lanes, you'll need to be, for free, you'll need to be in an HOV3. So we want to just make sure people are well aware of that prior to the implementation of the project. Expanded employer outreach. This is very effective. These are things like encouraging employers to offer features like flex time or telework, and so there will be some incentives for employers to do that. And then innovative first and last mile solutions. These are things that are ways that we can get people to and from these park and ride lots without actually getting in their single occupant vehicles. So we'll be looking at ways to actually move people to the park and ride lots in that fashion. All of these TDM strategies will actually begin during construction of the project so that we can help manage traffic during construction of the project. That's what's called the Transportation Management Plan that VDOT will implement. And also wanted to let you know that some of the transit services that we mentioned earlier, we'll take a look at those and we'll figure out hopefully some that we can implement as part of the Transportation Management Plan as well. So that is the rundown of our transit and TDM features of the project. And I'm going to turn this back over to Susan.
Okay, we're almost done. So bicycle and pedestrian access was covered in our video. Wherever we have bridges that are being reconstructed as part of our project that need to be lengthened to carry the larger typical section on 66, we are looking at providing trails, sidewalks, bike lanes in accordance with the local transportation plan. So in this case, you can see an example of this at Germantown Road, and you can see the existing pedestrian facilities on the existing bridge, which are pretty well non-existent, and what we're proposing in the future, and this does match up with the county's transportation plan. In addition, we'll be looking at making logical connections so that we have a seamless network. The other thing that we have added since our meetings in May, we had some conceptual ideas about a trail along 66, and we now are showing that. We've incorporated that in our plans, and you can see out on the boards those plans. We're showing a trail along 66. It's generally located on the highway side of the sound wall, where a sound wall exists. And we still have some details to work out, but this just shows the conceptual plan. We've worked with our counterparts in both Fairfax and Prince William to come up with a plan that we think can be effective and provide a regional trail along 66. Another effort that's going on simultaneously with our NEPA process is our procurement process. So we're beginning to look at how we can deliver this project. The Secretary of Transportation has talked about this a number of times at our May CTB meeting and again in August, but we're considering both publicly and privately financed options. And so right now we're moving through a process with 3 different options. One is a typical, sometimes called a P3 or design, build, finance, operate, maintain process, where it would be very similar to what we have on 495 and 95, where a company will come in, they will design, build, and then be responsible to operate and maintain the facility for a period of time. And we've set that time a maximum of 50 years. Another option that's being looked at that would be publicly financed is design, build, operate, and maintain. In that case, the toll money would be coming to the state, and then we would be paying the team they would be responsible to operate and maintain, but for a smaller time period, and they would not have the revenue risk in terms of the toll revenues. And then a third option is looking at just a design build option where they would not be responsible for any operation or maintenance once the project is constructed. And you'll hear that listed with a term called alternative technical concepts, but I would note that the alternative technical concept process really does apply to all 3 methods. And that's a process where we lay out the technical requirements of the project to the private sector, and then they come to us with their ideas of how to do the project better. They may come up with a different interchange configuration, a different location for a park and ride lot, something we haven't even thought of. And we've set requirements for them so that they know within what bounds they need to be looking at these options. So one requirement would be that they maintain or reduce the existing footprint of the project. We're hoping that they'll come up with ways to make further reductions to the overall project footprint. And so right now we have received qualification statement from several teams. We actually have 5 teams that are looking at the publicly financed options and 3 teams that are looking at the design, build, finance, operate, maintain. The 3 teams that are looking at the DBFOM option are actually in all 3 options. We've asked them now to submit conceptual financial proposals on December 1st, and this information is going to be used to help the Commonwealth determine which delivery method of these 3 that are being considered is the best one and is in the public's interest. And we plan to have a decision and an announcement about that method in mid-December. This just shows our key milestones. You can see where we are today. We're having our public information meetings. We are anticipating the Commonwealth Transportation Board would take action on our preferred alternative at their meeting at the end of the month. We are working on finalizing our final environmental document along with all of the technical reports. The information that you see tonight in terms of our plans, those are already posted. Our presentation is posted, as well as our video. Our detailed reports, which we had previously posted back in the May-June timeframe, are still being refined, but we plan to have those available by the end of the year. And then we would begin this process of our alternative technical concepts reviews with the developers. Those will be private meetings. We need to, they're considered confidential meetings because it's the competitive advantage one team might have over another. So that's kind of we will be coming back to key stakeholders where we need to include them in our decisions, but we won't have a lot of information that's widely available to the public about those alternative technical concepts during that time frame. We would anticipate a selection of a team that would actually design, build, and deliver the project towards the fall of 2016, and then we would come back to the public with detailed plans that the proposed contractor would have, and we would come back to a design public hearing where the public would have the opportunity to review these detailed plans and provide their comments. And then we continue to be committed to a schedule that would allow construction to start in 2017, with the overall project open to traffic in 2021. And with that, that concludes our presentation tonight. We do have our team back at the boards, and we're available here to have further discussions with you. There is an opportunity to submit your written comments. We would use those again to help us refine our design as we move into final design.